Hello, my friends. It's Monday, July 27th, 2026, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. I'm your host, Radical Russ Belville, your patriotic, progressive, red state refugee, and welcome to the Radical Russ Show, coming to you from Rolla J Studios in Southern Oregon. On this week's Smoke Session, let's talk about how we are at war. MAGA is the enemy, and we want Democrats who know that. Also, the right-wing hate violence is terrorism against humanity, and some highlights, or lowlights, from the White House Cuckolds Association dinner. Plus some corrections from last week's podcast. I kept referring to the failure of the 2022 Idaho Medical Marijuana Act to make the ballot. That's true, it didn't make the ballot. But I was referring to this year's iteration, the 2026 Idaho Medical Marijuana Act that turned in 150,000 signatures and failed to get 75,000 of them that were validated, that were actual signatures. They turned in something like 63,000 that were actually validated for a validation rate of 42%. Oh my God. Also, I had referred to my father's appreciation of a Democratic gubernatorial candidate in the state of Idaho by the name of Pauline Jordan. That was incorrect. It's Paulette Jordan. My apologies to the wonderful woman up there. And I kept referring to the Kentucky special election deadline being April 13th, which has way passed. Of course, I was referring to August 13th, not April. This is what happens when I try to record the podcast before getting high. But before we get to all the serious political stuff, we've got time for 3 quick hits.
Can I get any of you cunts a drink?
There will be no more cunts in this house.
Serve and protect this ass, you fucking cunt!
And now by law, these cunts can't make you say anything.
Okay, so I'm out driving around, driving things to people as I do to earn money in this capitalist system. And I'm driving through this little neighborhood, middle class, working class, suburban neighborhood, nice houses, maybe a car or two for each house, got a garage, some brushes, some shrubs, typical nice place, right? And as I'm driving by, one of these garages has a banner, a custom-made banner printed across its garage that reads in all block letters, "All politicians are cunts." Like, okay, I don't necessarily disagree with the sentiment entirely, but is this the place to be displaying it, dude? I mean, look, I'm a free speech absolutist. I'm all for free speech. I'm not saying censor the guy, that the cops should show up or anything, but didn't we used to have tact, some couth, that like there were some words you just didn't put up on signs in the neighborhood, but no, it's fuck Joe Biden, fuck Donald Trump, all politicians are cunts, suck my ass, fuck cancer. It's everywhere. And I never had kids, so I don't have the whole, adult language discussion with children and all that. Is that even had anymore? Does anyone even care if kids are cursing up a storm? Because I don't see how you could blame them if they did when, well, it's just out there. I guess there's no putting that toothpaste back in the tube. It just kind of shocked me. It's kind of like the people that are listening to videos and music with no headphones on their phones in public, or having, phone conversations on speakerphone just out there around everyone, wasn't there a time when that was considered rude and it wasn't done? I don't know what the solution to this is. I don't know if there is a solution. I don't know if there needs to be a solution. It's just, boy, things sure have changed.
There's times when I just want to disappear.
Just want to disappear, live the rest of my life away from the world.
I just want to disappear right now.
Just want to disappear.
Oh, I saw this great video online of these kids that had, I don't know if they're kids, they're probably young adults. They all look like kids to me. But these kids who had watched the TV show MacGyver, and I don't even think it was the original MacGyver. I think it was the reboot MacGyver, where MacGyver fools some security cams by putting some infrared LEDs on some sunglasses to power them that would create a blinding light to those cameras. And the kids tried it out, and sure enough, it works, and it blocks all these surveillance techniques, all these cameras out there. And I'm just wondering, how long is it going to be before someone starts making those in earnest, as we keep seeing these flock cameras everywhere and the facial recognition software. We had this story come out about the New York Knicks owner who's got all the facial recognition at Madison Square Garden, and he tracks who's the celebrities and who are the LGBT people, and he bans certain people from coming to the garden and can recognize them by their face. I mean, it's just insane. Of course, Taylor Swift didn't have to put up with all of that when she got married at the garden. They had all that shit turned off for her. Anyway, with all this surveillance state that's coming up, you got to imagine there's going to be anti-surveillance technology that's brought forth. And what is the government going to do to try to prevent us from using this anti-surveillance technology? Well, it turns out they're going to do quite a lot, because we have a story coming out of Atlanta where a protester, a guy named Sam Tunick, had flown out of the country, and he's flying back into the country, and he's stopped by Customs and Border Protection. He'd been put on a terrorist watch list because he's part of the anti-cop city protests in Atlanta, this big development for law enforcement training that has been protested against quite a bit, and quite successfully, I understand. Anyway, Tunick is coming back across the border with his phone, and the agents say they need to seize his phone. Now, they don't have a warrant. They're not arresting the guy, but they're going to seize his phone. They say have to seize his phone to search for child sexual abuse material. Accusations of CSAM, child sexual abuse material. And he, of course, has no interest or accusations of that in his background. But when they try to take the phone from him, they demand that he give them the passcode to open the phone. Now, this, first of all, this is the smart thing. Never lock your phone with your thumbprint or your Face ID, because cops can unlock your phone with your face or your thumbprint that they got when they booked you, right? It's perfectly legal for them to do that without a warrant, right? They can just go ahead, open up your phone, start looking around in it. But to get into your phone that has a passcode on it, that's a lock, legally speaking, and they need a warrant to get past that. So they kept asking for his passcode. He wouldn't give it. They want to search through his phone. So he finally relents. Oh, and the whole time he's asking for a lawyer, right? He wants a lawyer through this whole thing, never gets one. He finally relents, gives them a passcode. They enter the passcode. The screen blinks 2 or 3 times. The phone goes black, then reboots in factory reset mode. Because this guy, Sam Tunick, had a Google Pixel phone, and onto it he had added this open source operating system called Graphene OS, Graphene, Graphene OS. And Graphene OS has a security feature in it called a duress password. So you got your regular password that you're going to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, that unlocks your phone. But you can have a duress password, a second password, let's say 911 911. And when you enter that passcode, your phone goes into factory reset mode, completely obliterates all the data on your phone, resets it to the way it came back from the factory. Well, now prosecutors want to charge him, thanks to, as reported by The Guardian, a little-known U.S. federal statute that makes it a crime to destroy property in an effort to prevent it from being seized. Now, electronics experts and privacy experts are saying, well, this kind of makes it sound like having just that Graphene OS is criminal by default, because it has that duress password, this ability to erase the phone with a particular code. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this to me seems like a cut and dried case of 4th and 5th Amendment rights. My passcode is a lock. You can't get into my phone or my house, my person, papers, houses, and effects without a warrant. And that phone is locked. And by giving you a passcode, that's not saying I've opened the door for you. You haven't gotten your warrant. It'll be interesting to see how this case pans out, and how cases in the future will pan out when kids come up with the detect the glasses that help you evade the facial recognition, and masks that help you evade facial recognition, and all the technologies that are kind of come up in this escalating arms race of detection versus non-detection.
Like the Dodgers?
Fans expressing their displeasure as the Dodgers take the field.
The Dodgers will get awfully tight.
The Dodgers still losing?
The Dodgers must have been wondering if they could do anything right today.
Okay, so y'all know about the Trump sports curse, right? The New York Knicks, they go and win the championship, but the one game Trump shows up to, that's the one game they lose in the finals. Then, of course, got the World Cup and sucking up to Harry Kane there, and England doesn't make it to the finals, and then he's rooting for Argentina, and Argentina loses in the finals. There's just plenty of Trump sports curse out there, and we're going to see if it plays out for the back-to-back World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, because the Dodgers accepted the invitation with the exception of a couple of their players. I think Kike Hernandez was one of them. A couple of players didn't show, but the rest of them, Shohei Ohtani, all the rest of the guys, showed up to the White House for this ceremony on the White House lawn.
We'd like to present this to you as a
honorary. Oh, you have to be kidding, huh?
A White House or a World Series ring.
Do I have to report this?
Yeah, because he's so concerned about ethics.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Wouldn't want to take an emolument.
That's right. That's really good.
Now the jersey.
Thank you, fellas. You know what that looks like.
The LA Dodgers Trump 47 jersey.
All right. And a World Series jersey.
Thank you very much.
47.
Thank you. Wow.
Yeah, so there you go. The World Series back-to-back champion LA Dodgers have just blown their chance at the World Series three-peat. What an insult to the Dodgers fan base. All the Latinos were rooting for Los Dodgers, who make up, a third or more of their fan base? Trump would deport 2/3 of the LA Dodgers outfield if he had his way. Just an insult. And it has yet to be seen how this is going to affect. I guess this week is about a 6-game homestand for the Dodgers. Let's see how their attendance goes. Let's see if anybody brings some signs. Points out how ICE is rounding up people in Los Angeles. Point out how the Trump regime is withholding billions of dollars in federal fire aid and billions of dollars in Medicare dollars to the state of California to punish it. We have the report to come out that they specifically admit, the Trump administration specifically admits that they are withholding money from funding for energy projects to states based solely on whether they backed Trump in the 2024 election and were represented by 2 Democratic senators. Openly declaring war on the blue states. But I hope you had fun, Dodgers, because the reports coming out now is that the Dodgers owner had some sort of regulatory business with the Trump regime. And that could be the reason why he felt the pressure to make sure that his team didn't cause any problems with the administration, didn't make any political waves. Well, we'll see how that bodes for your attendance, see how that bodes for your fan base's loyalty to you. And again, the chances of you achieving that World Series three-peat. The Trump curse is real. Everything Trump touches dies.
Our top story tonight.
Our top story tonight.
Top story tonight.
Our top story tonight. But now, for better or for worse, we are at war.
We are at war with insurrectionists, terrorists.
Make no mistake, we are at war.
And you and I know what the average citizen does not, that we are at war 24 hours of every day.
No cause for alarm, but we are at war, you know, sir.
We are at war. MAGA is the enemy, and we want Democrats who know that. Got a lot on my mind lately driving around and listening to various podcasts and politicians and speeches talking about the 2026 midterms and who's going to win and the uprising within the Democratic Party between the Democratic Socialists who keep winning these primaries by, getting more votes and appealing to voters, and how it's blowing up the establishment, and we need to be careful. We can't put these left-wing candidates out there when the mission number one is to defeat Donald Trump and to put some checks and balances back into Congress. And so I've been thinking a lot about it and had a lot to say about it. And before I could get to this podcast and record it, somebody beat me to it. And is a fantastic writer, thinker out there. If you don't follow him, his name is Jamel Bouie, Bouie. And he just nails it in this video that he put together called "It's Time for American Liberals to Have a Little Backbone." And I just want to play this relevant clip from it.
And I really think it's time to recognize that part of what's happening here, a big part of what's happening here, is not that there are misunderstandings. It's not that we're talking past each other. It's that we are opponents. It's that we are opposed to each other on key values. That isn't everyone who cast a ballot for a Republican, but certainly for Republican elites, conservative elites, the intellectual class, the billionaire class, the people funding these parties, guys like Elon Musk, Silicon Valley reactionaries who are all obsessed with neo-monarchist thought. Yes, when it comes to those people, they're our enemies. We are opposed to them. We're not talking past each other. There's no common ground we can find.
And that, to me, is something that liberals, the left, progressives, moderates, whatever you want to call this big tent, broad pro-democracy coalition, need to get through our thick skulls, because this video only has to exist for liberals. Jamel Bouie only has to make this for people on the left, because on the right, they've been getting a steady diet of this since Rush Limbaugh, since AM talk radio, further amplified by Fox News in the 90s, and then the growth of all the other Newsmax, OAN type outlets on cable media, and then, of course, the podcasts and the streams. There is an entire information sphere that feeds a 24/7 diet of liberals are the problem, Democrats are the enemy, progressives are communists, they are the enemy that must be defeated, and there's some religious back to that as well. The Christians must rise up against these godless heathens. There's great replacement racism in that too. We must protect the beauty of the white woman and ensure the future of the white children, protect against the invading hordes of migrants. Oh, so it's about time that American liberals, the left, Democratic Party, the so-called opposition, begins to recognize that we are in a cold civil war, and those people are not our friends across the aisle. They are not our colleagues with whom we share photographs of our seersucker suit day and our congressional soccer caucus. We're not interested in that. We want fighters. We want Democrats who recognize that we are at war and that those people are an enemy that must be vanquished. They are an ideology that is anti-American, that is contrary to the progressive founding ideals of this nation. And yes, America is the most progressive idea in human history. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's radical thought. That's radical thought in the 1700s, for an entire history that had been monarchs and kings and conquerors. The idea that the people themselves could choose their leaders and all among them had equal say. And yeah, I know there was slavery, genocide of the indigenous people, and so forth. But in the world in which the founders lived, in which white men were the only people to call men, even that idea that among them they could all be equal it was a radical thought. And then that progressive vision is what makes America beautiful, that all the other people who read those words, the black people, the brown people, the indigenous people, the Asian people, the gay people, the disabled people, the female people, the transgender people, who all read those words and said, hey, we're people too. All men, all people. Men in that context was people. It's just they didn't count anybody but men as people. But now we do. And all people are created equal. And that's the fight of America, is that those underrepresented groups, those oppressed groups, making America live up to its progressive founding ideals. And MAGA and the Republican Party are counter to that. They are conservatives, and implied in the name conservatism is to conserve, to keep things as they are, to keep things in stasis, to keep things as they were when the founders founded the country. When all men are created equal meant men, straight, white, landowning men, straight, white, Christian, landowning men, straight, white, able-bodied, landowning Christian men. They want to conserve that, and they are trying their best to go back and conserve that past. So we need to understand that MAGA is the enemy, and I'm afraid there are many Democrats who do not understand that, and that is what the unrest is within the Democratic Party. It's the unrest of a base that has been taken for granted, a base that has been ignored, a base who's actually been fought against many times, that doesn't support genocide, doesn't support tech bros and AI, that doesn't support piecemeal solutions to grand problems, that recognizes that the Democratic leadership, the octogenarian Democratic leadership, the people and the mindset that's been in control of the Democratic Party since the days of Bill Clinton, brought us 2 terms of George W. Bush and 2 terms of Donald J. Trump. And in 2 of those 4 elections, they got more votes and still lost. They don't know how to play the game, and we're looking for fighters, looking for people who know how to play this game. And I'm afraid there's a set of Democrats that just don't get it. First among them, somebody coined this online, and I'm just stealing it, the Netanyahu Democrats. These AIPAC-funded pro-Israel Democrats, John Fetterman being the senator from Israel at this point. And where this is rearing its ugly head is in the state of Michigan, where there is a Senate race going on where Abdul al-Sayed, who fancies himself a Democratic socialist, is making a strong primary challenge bid for the Senate seat against Haley Stevens, who is a current House of Representatives and your model centrist AIPAC-supported Democrat. So she's feeling the heat, and the heat now being all these Democratic socialists winning and all these people turning against the Democratic establishment and openly saying things. If I get elected, I'm not supporting Chuck Schumer. We want a new direction for the Democratic Party. So she's out there campaigning, and this is her stump speech, part of her stump speech, and standing behind her is Representative James Clyburn of South Carolina. Because, you know, when it comes to a Senate race in Michigan, the person you want to turn to is the senator from South Carolina. So here's Haley Stevens.
Okay, some of you have seen, there's those cool kids on the internet. They're doing the cool kid chatter. Some of them might be the coastal elites, making fun of how I talk. Not okay, says my governor. But let's be real. They're making fun of Michigan. They're thinking they're better than us. And what they don't know is I am your voice. And their jokes and their criticism only makes me fight harder.
Yeah, so there we go. The rousing stump speech there. And note the use of the phrase, the coastal elites. Right out of the Republican talking point playbook, the coastal elites. here's a Democrat bashing the Democratic base, the people who live in big cities, the so-called coastal elites. And who's making fun of the way you talk? Now, they're not making fun of me. They're just making fun of you. That's, oh my goodness, this woman just grates on my nerves. And of course, there's Jim Clyburn, and never fails whenever there's a progressive Democratic socialist threatening the establishment power. You can count on Jim Clyburn there to boost the centrist. And he's there to give the old black Democratic voters the wink and the nod that she's the one to go for. Don't be, this white lady's okay. You want to go for this good white lady who can actually win. The good white lady can win. Don't take a chance on the brown Arab Muslim guy. Oh yeah, he says some nice things, and sure, he's a brown folks like us, but yeah, you can't. He won't get past the white voters, the racism. So we better go with this nice white lady. That's what he's there for, to give that little stamp of approval. Like you did for Joe Biden. And I keep hearing that from the talking heads on the right. The never Trumpers are like, well, you Democrats should learn something from Joe Biden. He's the only one that beat Donald Trump. Look, I think anybody in 2020 could have beat Donald Trump. Any one of the Democrats in 2020 that were running, who all conveniently stepped aside as soon as Bernie Sanders was winning the first couple of primaries, after Jim Clyburn kind of gave him the, okay, let's go get behind old Joe. We can trust old Joe to win and not do anything radical. So, keep getting this. Yeah, Joe Biden's the only one that beats Trump, but did he? Did he really beat Trump? Because, I look on my timeline and I see Trump everywhere. Not just now that he's president again. All through Biden's presidency, Trump was everywhere. Biden failed to do the one thing he was elected to do, rid us of Donald Trump. So, get this Haley Stevens here. And so, Haley was out walking around trying to get some votes, canvassing. And out on the 4th of July, meets up with a constituent.
It's your first sport.
He's got a little baby.
And you're walking with a congresswoman. Yes, oh my gosh, please.
Well, thank you so much for your community service.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I was wondering, with all the support of Republicans and people who are anti-choice and people who are working to disrupt our election systems that AIPAC is doing right now, I'm wondering why you're accepting their support. I'm a Jew, and my family lives here in this community, and I really think that those kinds of candidates are making the Jewish people less safe. I'm wondering why you're accepting their
Well, thank you so much for coming and bringing your kiddo. It's so nice to meet with you.
And I'm not going to answer your question.
I want to make life and this country a safe place for him to grow up in. I'm wondering why you would want to accept their endorsement and $800,000 in ads this year.
I gotta go. I'm going to start walking away toward my campaign staff.
I think we've got a lot of local labor.
You
labor
are a
loves
great
me.
representative,
I'm
and
going
we
to walk
really
past you
appreciate your
and
support.
walk
I'm
away
just
now.
hoping you guys. Oh my gosh,
Goodness, I'm going to ignore you now and your baby.
This is not, look at a boat. Let's ride the boat.
Yeah, that's really going to win you a lot of votes there, Haley Stevens. The Jewish lady holding the baby wants to know why you're taking AIPAC money and accepting AIPAC ads through super PACs. And you turn away. This is something that the established Democrats don't know how to understand, is that we have a conscience and we have principles, and that genocide is something that should be like a pretty easy red line, obvious no vote. And yet there's all those AIPAC dollars supporting these people. So the pressure's on. Netanyahu Democrats are feeling it because there's definitely an anti-Netanyahu bent in the left. Now, of course, they want to paint this as anti-Semitism on the left. Oh my God, there's anti-Semitism on the left. Never mind the Nazis over there on the right. Pay no mind to the world's richest man doing Hitler salutes and posting Turner Diaries propaganda. And I'll get to that in a second. Never mind that. Yeah, sure, there's anti-Semitism on the right. That's baked into the cake. But what you got to worry about is anti-Semitism on the left, which pretty much works out to, we think it's bad that Israel runs an apartheid state of two different levels of citizenship where Palestinians aren't free to go, and They are shunted off into two separate areas, West Bank and Gaza. And in the West Bank, you got roving bands of Israeli settlers who are setting fire to their olive trees that they've been tending to the land for hundreds of years and booting Palestinians out of their home and stealing their land. I mean, it's straight out of the American West, conquering the Indian lands, kicking them out, marching them out. It's the same damn thing, except now it's with, machine guns and tanks. Got that going on the West Bank, and then Gaza just being flattened. And I've said this many times on my show. Gaza is about the same size as Idaho's Treasure Valley. From Caldwell to Boise, from Eagle to Cuna, that area is about the same size as Gaza, but about 5 times as many people. And it's just been obliterated. It's just rubble at this point. People starving, people dying of easily preventable diseases. We on the Democratic Socialist side, on this anti-Semitic left, we think that's bad. I don't care if it's a Jewish country doing it, a Muslim country doing it, a Christian country doing it, a Buddhist country doing it. I don't care. I think dropping bombs on kids is bad. Call me an anti-Semite for that. Oh, but Israel has a right to defend itself. Yeah, you got hit by a terrorist attack on October 7th, 2023. And so that then gives you the right to then obliterate an entire group of people. To go after an entire group of people because, Hamas might be hiding among them. So they're on the run, trying to appeal and trying to paint themselves as being more progressive than they are. And then you got the do-nothing Democrats, exemplified this last couple of weeks by the governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear. Oh my God, has anyone fallen farther in my potential 2028 presidential run nominating sweepstakes than Democratic Governor Andy Beshear? He'd been touted, here's this white Southern Christian guy with progressive principles, from a Southern state. This is the kind of guy that could make it. No, he's out for me. Because this thing with Mitch McConnell being gone for 6 weeks now? How many weeks is it? Mitch McConnell carted off in an ambulance. Nobody's seen nor heard from him except for 3 known liars on the right who said, oh yeah, I talked to him on the phone for 20 minutes. And a proof of life photo that looks so staged that nobody's believing it. And that's the last we've seen is that photo, right? Forget the fact that he may have died 6 weeks ago. Maybe he's died since that photo because we haven't heard from him again. And so there's the governor. Well, governor, what are you going to do? The Constitution gives him a right to appoint a senator to take his place. But then there's the Republicans there passed a law as soon as a Democrat became governor that passed a law that said, no, the governor can't do that. There has to be a special election. And that's never been adjudicated. So if Beshear did appoint a senator, this would be a fight that would be taken to their Supreme Court and finally adjudicate that, find out what powers he actually does have. But no, he's like, well, sent him a letter and haven't heard back. And what? Get your ass out of the governor's mansion. Take yourself a couple of state cops with you. Go to the hospital and demand to speak with the senator from Kentucky. And if he doesn't show, if he's not conscious, if he's not able to speak to present proof of life, appoint a senator and start having the fight. But no, this seems to be just another case of Democrats just going, well, gosh, don't want to raise a fuss. Sure would be a lot of mess if we tried to fight this thing. Probably wouldn't even win. It might not. And what's the point? It's going to be an election in November anyway. And so if he's dead, then his seat will get filled anyway. And so it's, we're a Republican state and it's probably going to be voted Republican anyway. We're probably just better off where we are now, where Mitch McConnell doesn't get a vote at all at this point. So yeah, let's just not do anything. Like Merrick Garland and Donald Trump, January 6th. Let's not have the fight. Let's not raise a fuss. And then, of course, we've got the establishment Democrats who are now going to be making all the noise about being progressive and how they're going to be fighters. Loud and proud progressive fighters. Here's Hakeem Jeffries telling us we've got 100 days to go before the midterms.
We're going to crack down on corrupt price gouging.
Crack down.
We're going to clean up the mess at the United States Supreme Court.
Ooh, yeah.
And we're going to ban the president, vice president, and members of Congress from trading stocks. We have 100 days, America, 100 days to change direction in the United States before it's too late. 100 days to speak up. 100 days to show up. 100 days to stand up to make our country the best version of herself.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. 100 days to go. So we're going to crack down on corrupt price gouging. The legal price gouging, I suppose, will remain in place, right? Like, how about, what are we going to do? What's a concrete example of what we're going to do to deal with the prices, the rise in prices? Yes, okay, price gouging, sure. How about raising the minimum wage? How about elect Democrats and we will raise the minimum wage to $25 an hour? But he doesn't want to say that. You want to say things like crack down on corrupt price gouging because there's a lot of wiggle room in there. Hey, we brought price gouging on eggs. We punished a company for price gouging on eggs. We fined them 1% of what their profit was from doing that. Woohoo! We cracked down. Right? Crack down. Ooh, there's nothing specific about that, right? Or we're going to clean up the mess at the Supreme Court. What is that mess? What mess is at the Supreme Court that needs cleaned up? Is the mess the fact that we've got 6 Christian nationalists on that court who need to be balanced out by adding 4 regular old justices to, add some justices to water them out of the opinions, right? Is that part of this mess? Ethics reform, term limits, anything? And we're going to ban the president, vice president, members of Congress from trading stocks. Okay, that's some low-hanging fruit that should have been done years ago. Seems that your mentor, Nancy Pelosi, didn't want to see that happen, though. So, well, nice that we get around to that. But you know what I didn't hear at all in that? Who's the enemy, Hakeem? Why do we have corrupt price gouging, Hakeem? Who's responsible for that, Hakeem? What made the mess at the Supreme Court, Hakeem? Republicans, MAGA, Trump. We have an enemy. We are at war. We must fight them. When are we going to get that into our heads? They don't understand. We've got masked. We've got the federal ethnic cleansing extermination squads, feces, out on our street, killing people on the street, abducting them off the street, lying about it openly in court, defying court orders. Literal fascism on our streets. National Guard deployed in the nation's capital for months now. Troops in our capital. Dictator building a secure ballroom, putting up a triumphal arch, eliminating women and minorities from the military, going on a persecution against transgender people's very existence, diluting the voting power of black people. We are at war. They're waging war against us, and you want to talk about, well, price gouging, like this amorphous thing out there that, like the weather, we're going to crack down on sinkholes, right? Who's doing the price gouging? What's causing it? We want someone who will identify the enemy like they do to us and have done since Limbaugh. The Democrats, the demon rats, the feminazis, the godless Democrats, the heathen Democrats who hate America, the media is the enemy of the people. They're on war footing and have been, well, since Brown v. Board, really. Be nice if our side would finally get on that war footing. And there are a few who understand it. that understand that we've got a full-on Nazi movement in this country. But nobody wants to call it that because, we're America and we're different. It reminds me of my days when I was doing marijuana legalization, and I used to lament the fact that, marijuana and alcohol have two different sets of terminologies and frames that people live in. Marijuana versus drugs, if you want to take it more broadly. Someone's a drunk versus an addict. Someone's a drinker versus a user. Someone gets buzzed versus getting high. Somebody goes into an overdose versus having a hangover or puking their guts out. There is always this different frame for alcohol to make it more palatable societally. And I feel like we've got that with our Nazis here in America, the MAGA movement, the right wing, the Patriot Front, the 3%ers, the Proud Boys. It's Nazis. They got their own terms and their own, but it's Nazi. And nowhere is that more obvious than the richest man in the world from apartheid South Africa who does a Nazi salute on stage, who just this week retweeted some guy who was saying his quote was something like, it's no point bailing out the boat while the traitors are still chopping holes in the bottom of it. And then the line, first the traitors, then the immigrants. And then Elon Musk saying, first the traitors, then the immigrants, right? And people who aren't steeped in this culture, that's a dog whistle that's going to go right past them. But growing up in Idaho, I knew damn well what that was when I saw it. First the traitors, then the immigrants is from the Turner Diaries. And the Turner Diaries is this white supremacist revolution, a racial holy war. It's a science fiction racial holy war that happens in America, overruns the system and kills all the enemies, all the immigrants and the leftists and the gays and so forth during what they call the Day of the Rope. So it's an explicitly Nazi fascist fantasy. It was a book that was one of the favorites of Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber, who actually, that was part of his motivation. He thought that setting off the Oklahoma City bomb, that killed 168 people, I think it was, and a whole bunch of little kids at a daycare. He thought that would set off the racial holy war. And that we'd have the Day of the Rope, and America would finally become the white Christian homeland that its manifest destiny meant it to be. And that's Elon Musk approving of that, putting that out on his X Twitter platform, which if you're still out on X, if you're still out on Twitter, get the fuck off of Twitter. What are you doing there? It's a Nazi pub. It's a Nazi propaganda channel. Joseph Goebbels would have killed to have something like Twitter. But Democratic politicians, for some reason, can't come right out and call the Nazis Nazis and point them out as being anti-American and being the enemy to all that we hold dear of being a multicultural, multiracial, egalitarian democracy that looks to uplift everyone. But there are a few who get it. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's still on my top 5 list for president. And I know you get the backlash. Oh no, they'll call her a socialist, a woman have lost twice. We can't go far. Same arguments they used against Barack Obama, except the woman part, right? But I think she's saying what people want to hear, and she's getting hounded by reporters all the time. She's walking through the streets of DC, and one of these right-wing Newsmax Fox type people, I forget which one, is trying to push her on this whole democratic socialism. We got to be afraid of the democratic socialism. It's communism. And so I love the way she deftly handles this.
They can do what they want. I'm not here to be the belief police around here.
But isn't there concern that, this slippery slope towards socialism inevitably ends up as full-blown communism?
I mean, no. I'm not concerned about America turning into a communist country in like a year. That is like, I think that is, I think that's, I think it's very silly. You just think about how impossible it has been to raise the minimum wage in America in 10, 15, 20 years. We can't even raise the minimum wage. Do Republicans really think that this stuff is going to happen? No, they don't. They're trying to scare people because they don't want us talking about the fact that we all have a right to health care in this country. So they want to call it communist, and they want to call everything they don't like communist, because if people actually wake up to the fact that their elected officials are screwing them over when they get here, then they're going to realize that they deserve better, and that healthcare as a right isn't crazy. It isn't pie in the sky. They want to call this stuff communist because they don't want us to realize that the rest of the developed world has guaranteed healthcare in this country. So they want to call it communist because they don't want you to know that Germany, Italy, the UK, Canada, everybody else has it better than us, and we spend the most amount of money for the worst care in the modern developed world. But Democrats.
Yeah, so well done, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And the woman reporter interviewing her, kind of a dim bulb here. Aren't you afraid that all this democratic socialism will lead right to full-blown communism? It's like democratic socialism's the gateway drug. It's like if you smoke a little pot, the next thing you know, you'll be addicted to heroin. And just if you even knew what those terms meant, what democratic socialism and communism actually meant, here's what the question is asking. Aren't you worried that if the government ensures people have a living wage, education, health care, parental leave, and vacation time, that the United States will nationalize all industries, have a centrally planned economy, eliminate all private enterprise, and mandate permanent one-party rule? Because that's what you're asking. Trying to scare us with the democratic socialism. Fox News keeps putting up graphics about, the democratic socialist platform. They want Medicare for all and guaranteed parental leave and 32-hour work weeks. And it's like, this is supposed to scare us? Like, threaten me with a good time. But most recently on Fox News, they had DSA National Co-Chair Megan Romer was on Fox News Sunday. And, well, this was, again, meant to threaten people. And Tom Nichols, the one of the never Trumpers that I follow, has already jumped on this thing. This easy Republican campaign ad. You've just given Republicans a gift with this interview. Well, just use this to paint all democratic socialists as crazy, yada, yada, yada. Like they would anyway. They would anyway, whether this lady appeared at all. But here's what she had pointed out with some of the platform scares. Eliminate the U.S. Senate. Replace the presidency and Supreme Court. Public ownership of major corporations. Abolish police and prisons. Defund the Pentagon. Tax the wealthy to expand public ownership. Prosecute U.S. and Israeli leaders over Gaza. And of course, that's meant to sound crazy. Eliminate the Senate. That's crazy talk. Replace the presidency and the Supreme Court. That's crazy talk. But I will give you my view of what we should do as a democratic socialist. We should restore some balance to the Senate. My idea is find a way, maybe through a constitutional amendment, to create city-states of the 50 largest metro areas, and each of those city-states get 2 senators each. Create a legal fiction of city-state that only exists in the federal level. Like New York City becomes a city-state. Now, that doesn't separate New York City from New York State in any way. New York City is still part of New York State for its state government. But with regards to federal representation in the Senate, New York City is now a city-state, and it gets 2 senators as well. And do that for the 50 largest metros, because the problem with the Senate is that you got these big land mass states in the middle of the country with very few people in them. They get the same amount of reputation as these states on the coast that have massive cities with many more times. Wyoming's got 500,000 people and 2 senators. California's got 40 million people and 2 senators. Doesn't seem quite fair. But if California got 2 senators for California, plus 2 more for LA, 2 more for San Diego, 2 more for the Bay Area, maybe 2 more for Silicon Valley, now it's got 10 senators. That makes a little more sense for a California compared to a Wyoming. Wyoming still gets disproportionate power, but not quite as much. Don't replace the presidency and the Supreme Court, but certainly reduce the power of the presidency. How about congressional review of pardons? How about some enforcement of the emoluments clause? How about getting rid of the idea that the president not only is immune from prosecution for official acts, but is actually subject to indictments while in office? Get rid of the idea that some Justice Department memo says that he can't be indicted. And for the Supreme Court, yeah, here's how you clean up that mess. Add 4 more justices, so we have the same 13 justices to match the 13 circuits. Have a rotating appointment so that there's no sudden, one president gets to appoint 3 and the next president gets to appoint 0. Every 2 years, make there be an appointment to the Supreme Court and set their term limit to 18 years. I don't know how you do it. You make them retire. You put them on a different level. You give them senior status. Lots of ideas have been floated. But make it so that every odd year, there's a new Supreme Court justice added to the Supreme Court. So every president's getting at least 2. Other ideas? How about this? Public ownership of any company too big to fail that we bailed out. Yeah, I don't think we should, public ownership of all corporations, but if your corporation gets so big that when it fails, the taxpayers are forced to bail it out for it to survive, then the taxpayers become co-owners of that corporation. Tax owners become shareholders. Tax holders get to vote. Taxpayers, I should say, get to vote in your shareholder votes. Taxpayers get a dividend when you get some profits. Oh, that sounds scary, doesn't it? Sounds scary to Walmart. Sounds scary to them big companies. Why shouldn't we get a dividend from the auto industries that we bailed out? Why shouldn't we get a vote for the banks that we bailed out? And the idea of abolishing police and prisons, that scares the hell out of people. But certainly we need to abolish a lot of what we do with police and prisons. First of all, we get rid of all the for-profit ones. Prisons should not be for-profit because that induces a profit motive to have more criminals. Want to keep them beds full. There should not be a profit motive in imprisoning people. And as far as the cops go, you start requiring cop personal liability insurance and a national cop database to track them. So you rack up so many complaints and your insurance rates go up in Fresno, you can't just up and move to Philly and become a cop because you still have to get insured and those things still are on your insurance record. The Pentagon budget, to fund the Pentagon, yeah, we could certainly remove a lot of the Pentagon's budget, reduce it by at least 75% over time. Let's pivot away from building all these 20th century ships and planes and start getting into that 21st century drone and AI warfare. It could be done on the cheap like Ukraine is showing us. Tax the wealthy? Hell yeah! Tax the shit out of the wealthy. Like, aim for this goal. Here's a goal. That having a net worth 1 million times greater than the median income is impossible. Median income right now is $51,000 in America, so $51 billion ought to be your upper limit. Beyond that, we tax all the rest of it. Start tying billionaires' net worth to the median income. I've proposed this for CEO pay too. Pay your CEO X times what their lowest paid employee is paid. Make that the limit. Make them have to rise the tide to lift all ships, right? Force them to have to pay people to get more pay for themselves. Put a profit motive on paying your people. And the whole Gaza thing? Hell yeah. In fact, we should join the International Criminal Court. And we should prosecute all war criminals, even the American ones. Especially the American ones. What else would I do to fix this country? Hell, I've talked about this many times on the podcast. Ratify Article the First. It's the only one of the original 12 amendments to the Constitution that has yet to be ratified. And it would dictate that there be one representative for every 50,000 Americans. Your district would be no more than 50,000 people. Yeah, I know. That increases Congress from 435 to something like 6,600 or so representatives. We couldn't all meet in one building. Well, yeah, we could. We could build a house that holds 6,600 people. Sure, we could. But I say just make all House business digital. Do it online. Keep the representatives staying at home in their much smaller 50,000 district. They zoom in for hearings and meetings and do their votes online. With more of them, it's harder for special interests to buy influence because you'd have to buy more of these politicians. They'd be spread all over the USA in their districts, so your lobbyists would have to fly all over the country to try to visit them all. But the locals would be able to lobby the hell out of them. Because again, they'd always be at home in their district, zooming for their meetings and voting online. Now, occasionally they might have to make a trip to DC, like, for a smaller caucus meeting or some sensitive top secret hearing or, something sensitive, sure. And we could build big enough buildings for the larger committees and whatever. But let's make our House much larger. Much larger than it currently is. And for all the voting fixes, of course, we should have multi-member districts. We should have ranked choice voting. We should have automatic voter registration. Hell, the government knows who you are, where you are. You should be automatically registered. And we should mandate all forms of voting. This is one thing that I'm kind of coming around a bit on. I live in Oregon where it's only vote by mail. And I think we ought to also have some in-person voting. Just because I can imagine how an abusive husband might control his wife's ballot and vote for her and force her to sign it and watch her as she drops it off. But in a voting booth, then she'd have that privacy, right? There's got to be, but regardless of that, at least there should always be automatic online, mail-in voting. But hell yeah, there should also be online voting. Yes, we should have online voting for our elections. I mean, come on. We do billions of online transactions for money securely every day with our credit cards and our ATM cards. Something that there's plenty of motivation to hack. And yet we don't hear of that happening. And our ATMs and our credit cards all seem to work just fine. My phone can Face ID me. It can check my thumbprint to ID me. So I can't believe we couldn't have some kind of secure online, blockchain encrypted whatever to have secure online voting. And if you'd like to see voter participation go up, getting a push notice from vote.gov that it's election day, here, click here to vote, I think would certainly increase participation. Also, we've got to de-Trumpify the government. This goes back to our whole premise here about we are at war with an enemy. The enemy has put his moles into our government, into our civil service, into our law enforcement. All these MAGA chuds are now working within our agencies. It's time to de-Trumpify them. And I hope the next Democratic president assigns their vice president the role of de-Trumpification czar. And that we go through like General Sherman to Atlanta on MAGA in the civil service. We do what they did. We go through their social media posts. We find out, did they like Trump? Did they go to a Trump rally? Did they post MAGA content? You're out. You're out of your civil service job because the Supreme Court has conveniently gotten rid of Humphrey's executor and given the president the full power to eradicate anyone he wants from any civil service job at all, except the Federal Reserve, because, stock market, rich people. But anyone else, we can take them out of their federal job. So I hope the next Democratic president avails himself of that power, de-Trumpifies our federal government, and then after that, restore Humphrey's executor, restore civil service jobs to being protected as they should be. I know we're running long, but got one more clip I wanted to play here. Because we are at war, and not just at war with MAGA, but we are literally at war with Iran. I noticed this because the gas prices at the local pump have gone up from $3.93 to $4.26 just in the past week or two. So I wanted to play this clip from Senator John Kennedy He was on Face the Nation, being grilled about this Iran war and this escalation that's happening, more bombings, and what we ought to do about it.
I don't have enough information to know about continuing the attacks. The president likes the daily attacks. He believes that sometimes you have to kill a few chickens to scare the monkeys. That's
why you have to kill a few chickens to scare the monkeys. Senator John Kennedy is an Ivy League graduate, and he likes to play this corn-pone down home, aw shucks, southern demeanor. Why, he likes to kill a few chickens just to scare the monkeys. That's not a saying. Nobody says you gotta kill a few chickens to scare the monkeys. What? And given that we are talking about Persian people and racial stereotyping, maybe there's something there. But anyway, what were you saying, Senator Kennedy?
That's not. I don't think that's going to work with the Iranian leadership. These people are more than mildly insane. It's like dealing with Son of Sam or Charles Manson.
They're the insane ones. The Iranians are the insane ones who were just going about their daily lives, I guess, when we started attacking them. Now, certainly this Iranian regime is terrible. Absolutely. Homophobic and Islamic and supporting terrorism and anti-woman, all the things that we could point out. Absolutely. Some of the things that we also do here with our regime, maybe not to the same extent. But to say they're crazy, that they have absolutely, to have this thought they have no rational motivation behind what they're doing. Okay, go on, Senator.
But I don't think we ought to just cut and run. If we can stand the pain of the rising cost of energy, we need to stay the course.
Yeah. Wow. We shouldn't cut and run. If we can just stand the pain of the rising cost of energy, we need to stay the course. Oh my goodness, where have I heard that before?
5 years after 9/11, worst attack on American homeland in history, the Democrats offer nothing but criticism and obstruction and endless second guessing. The party of FDR and the party of Harry Truman has become the party of cut and run.
Oh, yes, George W. Bush, 5 years after 9/11, imploring us to stay the course in Iraq and accusing Democrats of being cut and run. They're right. There's no new ideas in Hollywood, and looks like Republicans are replaying the greatest hits of the Iraq War on Terror era. Let's hope Democrats don't fall for it the same way they did back then.
Hey, what's going on?
Those bums won their court case, so they're marching today.
What bums?
The fucking Nazi party.
Illinois Nazis. I hate Illinois Nazis.
Yes, my friends, we are at war, and not just a war for the soul of the Democratic Party and a war for the direction of America, be it democratic socialism or fascism, but we're also at literal war in our streets, literally being shot down, literally being assaulted in our streets. And it hit pretty close to home, at least my home state, I should say, here in Oregon, with the news that Oregon State Police and federal authorities are investigating an assault in Clackamas County. And apparently what happened, the victim was pulled over at night by a big black SUV that had red and blue flashing lights. And then 3 masked, unidentified, gun-wielding goons said they were Immigration and Customs Enforcement, forced the victim out of the car, into the back seat of the SUV, and raped the victim for 20 minutes. Then let her go and went away in their black SUV with no license plates on it. So we're supposed to just comply You've heard Tom Homan recently on the Sunday shows talking about how we keep protesting and people don't comply. You can expect to be shot. You expect to be killed. Why? You just have to comply. Now, occasionally, when you comply, it'll be just 3 random goons taking advantage of the fact that armed guys can just drive around our cities now in unmarked vehicles with masks on. Of course these predators are going to take advantage of a system that allows them to be unidentified and to use force to commit assaults and rapes. And it's not the first place this has happened. Happened all over this country. We're really supposed to comply with this. This is the country, especially out here in the West, where I was raised with this Second Amendment, these Second Amendment guys, that we had to have these guns, that was our best shot at repelling tyranny. Why, if the Jews had guns in Nazi Germany, Hitler wouldn't have been able to exterminate them. How's that working out, fellas? Are you telling now the people in here, people in America with brown skin, who are American citizens, who may have been born here, may have been multi-generational American citizens, who can now be profiled by their race, thanks Brett Kavanaugh, they be profiled by their race or their accent, pulled over by these unmarked cars, masked goons from the Federal Ethnic Cleansing Extermination Squad's feces, and can be shot in the streets like Alex Preddy was 6 months ago. And his mother still hasn't heard anything from any authorities about any sort of prosecutions going on. Yeah, we're supposed to have the Second Amendment. So I guess you're saying that all the black and brown people in America now should arm themselves. They should arm themselves. They should have weapons in their vehicles, so that when the masked tyranny comes their way, they can use their Second Amendment rights to defend themselves and just start firing away, right? Fire away at any masked armed goon that tries to stop them. Now, at the end of this story in the Oregonian, they talked to law enforcement. And let's see, the state police said the men were dressed in green long-sleeve shirts, had tactical vests labeled police, and carried fake police badges. They were also wearing boots, baseball caps, and face coverings that hid their identities. Now, authorities said unmarked law enforcement vehicles will not have lights attached to the roof, as the perpetrator's vehicle did. Instead, emergency lights are typically built into the vehicle. Oh! Okay, thanks for that helpful tip. When I'm pulled over late at night all by myself by a black SUV that's parked 20, 30, 40 feet behind me, I don't know how far behind, and it's got that bright white light shining into my car and into my rearview mirror and blinding me, I should take the time to look back through that blinding light to identify whether the flashing red and blue lights are permanently affixed to the vehicle or merely a temporary add-on. Yes, that's what I should do to be able to identify whether I'm being pulled over by a legitimate law enforcement authority. Thanks for the tip. They go on. Drivers who are unsure whether a traffic stop is legitimate are encouraged to remain in their vehicle, lock their doors, and ask the officer to provide official identification. Well, that's happened many times. Many times when people are pulled over by these ICE people, they've said, hey, I've got my papers. Let me show you my papers. And they bust the windows and drag the people out. Sometimes they shoot them in the head and handcuff them on the ground while they bleed out. This is a war we're engaged in, and every act like this is a war against our civil society, a war against a free society where people of all colors, of all religions, of all statuses can live freely and without fear of violence against themselves and their families. Also got news out of Madison, Wisconsin. Maybe you've seen the video. I hope you haven't. a man being wrestled to the ground by 3 police officers. And as he's on the ground, one of the officers pulls his firearm and shoots him damn near point blank in the head. It's maybe he's 6 inches to a foot away. As the guy's on the ground being restrained by 2 other officers. Now, the story from the cops, he had a knife. Yeah. He brought a knife to a gunfight argument. He had a knife. He had already cut one of the officers. He had a knife. So he had to be put down like a dog. When there were 3 of you there, over the top of him, in control of the situation. You had no choice but to execute the man in the street. That's what you're telling me. Now, conveniently, Madison cops don't have body cams. It's not part of their protocol. They just don't have them. Fortunately, bystanders on the street recorded what we have, and we'll see how this prosecution goes. But in the last story, we're told we're supposed to, they said, look to make sure that the lights are attached. Ask for their official identification, and then if they don't officially identify themselves, call for a backup. Call 911 for a real cop. Okay. And then you get the Madison Police Department showing up. That we get some more cops to show. Because this is the uncomfortable truth that the mainstream Democrats don't want to address. Another part of the war that we're having within this Democratic Party is that every single abuse you see going on from ICE is done 10 times over by cops in this country every day. Every day they're shooting black kids in the streets. Every day. Every day cops are lying on the stand. Every day. Every day they're pulling over women and then assaulting them in the back of the squad car. It happens all the time. That's why they get nervous when they start talking about abolish ICE and tear it down and reform it, because those same reforms need to happen to policing in general. So we got to fear the fake cops dressing up in their ICE garb. We got to fear the real cops gunning us down. And then if it's not the cops, it's just homophobes. It's just transphobes. It's just hateful people of every religious stripe. Most recently, the tragedy took place in Berlin, Germany, where a man took a car and rammed a pride parade festival. And apparently he's dead now. The suspect was shot and killed. It was this news update from yesterday. The suspect in the pride parade attack that left 1 person dead and 29 injured was shot and killed by police during a confrontation. The German citizen with Lebanese roots was named Abdul Balout. Was killed after a 24-hour search. He also apparently stabbed others with a machete in what authorities believe was an Islamic extremist terror attack. Now, I want to call this Islamic extremism. That might be its source. But let's examine the common thread of the Islamic extremism and the Christian nationalist extremism. And that common thread is hatred of women, hatred of gay people, hatred of trans people, to feel that they are disordered, disgusting, need to be eliminated, or at least pushed into the closet, not seen, not heard. An attack like this is an attack on all of us. And that's what I would hope people start to take in when they think of these things. And I especially mean white guys like me. Because there's a tendency as a white guy to not think these things affect you. Oh, they killed a black guy in the street. Oh, good thing I'm not black. Oh, they rammed a pride parade full of gay people. Whew, good thing I'm not gay. Oh, they raped a woman in the back of her car. Oh, good thing I'm not a woman. But understand that all of these attacks affect us as well. Because these attacks undermine the basis of a civil society in which all of us can live. And I don't want to go on Nemo or poem on you, but it's just a short jump before, well, it's not just the Muslims, it's not just the gays, but it's also the leftists, it's also the people that voted Democratic, it's also the Catholics, it's also the whatever it could be. Because a fascist movement always needs enemies, always needs a bad guy, always needs to be victimized by somebody. So understand that these are not, they are hate crimes. They are hate crimes when someone drives a car into a pride parade. It's a hate crime, obviously. A hate crime is the tactic that's part of the larger strategy of undermining our civil society, of establishing a fascist dictatorial rule or a monarchist rule that these right-wing tech bro MAGA types lust for. You've seen their memes of Trump as a king, Trump as the Pope. They want an authoritarian daddy figure. Their whole movement is hierarchical. They're uncomfortable with people not knowing their place and their space. The straight white Christian dudes have been the default for so long that they don't want to not be the default anymore. That's why they freak out when you have to press 1 for English, or when they see other languages at the pharmacy counter for other people. They understand they're no longer going to be the default and have to actually consider the feelings and needs of other people. Oh, the sin of empathy. That's what they call it, the sin of empathy. One more example I want to get to comes from the world of sports. And this guy, Stephen A. Smith, who's, I don't follow the talk radio, talk shock jock kind of thing. I don't follow sports much anymore. But this guy, what a maroon, what an idiot. It's this guy. And that some people are seriously talking about this guy maybe running for president. Oh, come now. Stephen A. Smith said on the show, on his Sirius XM show, what if an NBA player decided to transition to playing in the WNBA? How elite would they be? How great would they be? We got to put stuff in its proper perspective and call it like it is. Okay, Stephen A., let's put it in its perspective. Let's say an MNBA player transitions. Somebody playing in the MNBA recognizes inside they're a W, and they transition. Well, okay, that's going to involve some hormone replacements, right? That's going to involve some changes there, and maybe a little bit of a loss of muscle mass. And once that player joins the WNBA, I imagine that player would be very competitive as one of 180 WNBA players distributed through 15 teams. Yes, there might be one really good transgender woman on one of these 15 teams. All right, so what? So what? Right? There was a time when Margot Dydek played in the WNBA. Margot Dydek was 7'2". 7'2" woman, right? And there's been a couple other 7-footers that play in the WNBA. Where most of the women in the WNBA are like 6'8" or lower, right? Was it unfair for them to play in the WNBA? With that extreme advantage they had? Well, players learned how to play around that. Teams learned how to shoot around that. That MNBA player who transitions, sure, they'll be great. They'll dominate in the paint. So will shoot threes, right? Teams will find a way to play around that. Because Stephen A., if you want to put this in the proper perspective and call it like it is, then you can't ignore the fact that there are a vanishingly small number of people who would be transgender players in the first place. When the transgender population is estimated to be 1 of 100, if that, then filter that through how many of them ever choose to play basketball. Then filter that by how many of them have any talent to rise above high school or college to get to a pro level. So yeah, maybe someday there will be an MNBA player who transitions to the WNBA. But there's not going to be 40 of them. There's not going to be 20 of them. I would be surprised that in my lifetime, I live to see 2 transgender players in any pro sports league. 2. I'd be surprised to see that. Oh, because, understand, I don't think Stephen A's got a problem if we had, what's that girl's name? Azzy, who just won the 3-point contest? Like, Steph Curry cites this woman as being a shooter. Steph Curry, the NBA's all-time 3-point leader, is afraid of doing a 3-point contest with her because she's so dead-eye. Such a shootout artist, right? So, is there a fear that she might transition and become a man and join the MNBA? Is there any concern that she would then go into hormone therapy and take testosterone and build a little bit more muscle, maybe with some more quickness, but still have these extra gifts of flexibility that a woman would have, that should have that lower center of gravity at the hips that might give her better ball handling, better handles? That she'd be such a dead-eye 3-point shooter? Is anybody complaining about that? Because, there's no rules against women joining the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball or Major League Soccer or the National Hockey League. And some have. There have been those examples of a woman playing goalie or a woman kicker in the NFL. So this idea, this float, this trial balloon by Stephen A. Smith, what if an NBA player transitioned to the WNBA, reminds me of that Facebook post I got the other day of what if the Muslim family at the restaurant asked you not to eat bacon in front of them? Like, when has this hypothetical ever happened? It's not. It's just something designed to activate that fear, activate that hatred, activate that scare of the other. Ooh, the scary trans. Sorry, Stephen A., that's just transphobia. And it's disqualifying. That's what we are at war with. And that's what we want from Democrats. We want Democrats who recognize that there are two choices now. There's right-wing, white Christian nationalist fascism. And that's the other party, and they are the enemies who want to end our American democracy. And then there's our side, the multiracial, multicultural, multi-religious, egalitarian, we the people, e pluribus unum democracy that this country is meant to be.
Won't soon be forgotten. And I think a lot was learned from that evening. A tremendous amount was learned about security and about other things, the dangers of what we all do. But just like my presidency, the second time is always better. It's always better. And the third time will be better yet.
Yeah, ha ha ha. That's the president of the United States in his second term. The one who committed an insurrection that got cops beaten on January 6th when he lost his first chance at a second term. Yeah, he's joking about having a third term. And all the White House correspondents are there laughing at it, and it's so funny. God damn it. I swear, you could take the collective salaries of the White House correspondents seated at that dinner, randomly distribute them to high school newspaper editors across the country to bring them to D.C., and they would do a better job of covering this tyrant than this so-called Fourth Estate. The fucking gall these people had to go to a dinner with the convicted felon who just had to pay out over $5 million for lying about raping a woman, the one who signed a law to make the Epstein files transparent that is being completely ignored, thumbed in, just rubbed in our faces. You want to normalize this guy by going to his dinner like it's just any old event, like it's just so important you have your little prom. Give him the mic and a platform to sit there and embarrass you all, insult you all, to continue his attacks on the First Amendment and the free press. And that's what you came there to celebrate with the man who's trying to destroy it. Is there no understanding of why we have all lost our faith in the mainstream media, who doesn't report anything of substance to us until a year or two after it's happened so that they can sell it in a book? Just let me give you a little taste of what they signed up for, what they sat and listened to at this White House Correspondents', or should we call it the White House Cuckolds Association dinner.
The other day, a senator I knew got a text, a great guy, from his wife. And she said, when you get home, I want to have you immediately come up the stairs and make love to me. And he said, I can't do both. You know what? In other words, can't go up the stairs and make love. Does anybody get that? Well, I thought that was actually pretty good. That was actually the only thing I thought was good in this whole frickin' stupid speech that they wrote. That was the only good one, and that went down with not exactly great laughter. I think, in other words, you can't go up the stairs and make love, too, So we're looking for term limits. Does anybody understand this stuff?
Whew, yeah, not exactly a tight five at the Chuckle Hut, is it, Donnie? Good Lord. And a lot of people have been making comments on this and the fact that he bombed at this, and trying to turn that into some sort of victory, that, he was forced to be embarrassed, had to sit there while the other journalists were there, not laughing at his jokes. But I think Hunter Biden actually had the best take on this of all. And I just want to read it in its entirety because it's so perfect. I watched Trump's speech at the Correspondents' dinner. It's hard to articulate how sad it made me. Sad and embarrassed and exhausted. Here's the thing about a man who is a joke. He can't tell one. People think humor is a talent. It isn't. It's a capacity. To make someone laugh, you have to be able to laugh at yourself. And to laugh at yourself, you have to step outside of yourself and see what everyone else sees. For 1 second, you have to be just another person in the room. Most people can do this by the time they are 9 years old. He has never once managed it. Not in 50 years of cameras, not for a second. That is not a quirk. It is a symptom. The muscle that lets you tell a joke is the same one that lets you feel what another person feels. A man who cannot survive being laughed at cannot imagine being anyone but himself. He will only ever be generous when it is photographed. He will only ever be kind when it is filmed. There is a name for it. So, he stood up there and did what he always does. He hit down. He made jokes about people's weight. He made jokes about their intelligence. He made jokes about how women look. He read out the names of people he doesn't like and mocked them, always mocking. And when no one laughed, he blamed the speechwriters. The cruelty dressed as humor has worn so thin. And for the 30% of you still in the cult who will inevitably call me a crackhead and blame it all on my dad, all I can say is, please, for the love of God, open your eyes. Wake the fuck up. Have some dignity. Have some pride. Joe Biden wasn't standing at that podium last night. Donald Trump was. And at the end of it, he put on a red hat that said Trump 2028 and told the room he was running again. No one laughed because everyone knows he has no intention on leaving. That's from Hunter Biden. Very well put. And one other thing from the White House Cuckolds Association dinner I wanted to play. This is the supposed gotcha moment. And it's filmed with the camera exclusively on Donald Trump while Wolf Blitzer is speaking. And he's giving an award to the reporters from the Wall Street Journal, all of whom showed up except one. Reporters to the Wall Street Journal giving them an award for exposing the birthday card letter that Donald Trump sent to Jeffrey Epstein, the one where it's got the woman's shape and Trump's signatures where the pubic hair is, and enigmas never age, and it's good to have beautiful secrets, or whatever the hell it was, the pedophile birthday letter. So they're getting an award for this, and the camera's on Donald Trump while Wolf Blitzer is speaking.
The Journal's courageous reporting on President Trump's past relationship with financier Jeffrey Epstein triggered the release of the so-called Epstein files, thousands of documents that might otherwise have remained hidden from the public. And despite the president's threat of a lawsuit, the Journal published a story about a provocative letter to Epstein bearing President Trump's signature. Trump quickly filed a $20 billion lawsuit against the Journal, revealing reporter
He's
Khadija
smirking and they're
Safdar's
laughing
home
at him.
address. Her family had to be relocated. The Journal was kicked off of Air Force One, but the reporters continue to file revelatory stories.
Okay, I hope I didn't miss that when I was talking over it. One of the journalists here that's getting an award was doxxed by the president and had to move for threat of her life and her family. And she's coming up to get an award. Okay, just wanted to make sure everyone's aware of that.
Please welcome the winners of the Katharine Graham Award from the Wall Street Journal. Khadija Safdar, Sadie Gurman, Annie Linsky, Josh Dawsey again, Alex Leary, Rebecca Ballhouse, and Ryan Barber. Their colleague, Joe Palazzolo, could not attend tonight.
Good for you, Joe, not attending. So everybody's applauding. These journalists are coming up to the lectern, and Trump, in his big fat white tux, is getting up, and they're all shaking hands with him. They've just won an award for exposing him as a child-raping pedophile. One of them had to move because they've been doxxed over his threats of harassment. And they are all coming up and shaking his motherfucking hand. I don't know. Ha ha ha, wave my hands. It's such a joke. Ha ha. Wall Street Journal, I sued him for $20 billion. What are you gonna do? Ha ha ha. This is why we have no trust in media. I mean, somebody had posted, well, what's the protocol for when, you know, you're... Okay, look. If you had to show up, if, like, the Journal forced you, I don't know. Don't make any waves or you don't want to upset the president. I don't know who got talked to or what. But the protocol, if you actually show up to this, is to walk up to that man and do not extend your hand to shake his hand. And let him sit there. Let him hang there in the uncomfortable silence. And you stand your ground and you do not move for your next co-worker to even approach him. You stand there and you stare at this pedophile, rapist, felonious, traitorous criminal. And you say under your breath, just so he can hear, I hope you rot in hell, you fucking pedophile. And then you turn on your heel and you walk out. Because had that had happened, that would have been the story. Oh my God, these journalists rebuked Trump to his face. They said something secret to him. What did they say? Let's get this team of lip readers on the panel to, can you see what she possibly said to him? Instead of what this story has been is, oh, Trump bombed doing stand-up comedy. You could have made this story all about that particular award and Trump being outed as a pedophile. And then maybe 2 or 3 days later, you go on the cable shows and you give your exclusive interview. Well, I said, I hope you rot in hell, you fucking pedophile. And then you got another 3 days of story. Oh my God, a Wall Street Journal called him a pedophile, blah, 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 blah. And you know he's not going to sue. Donald Trump never sues anyone who calls him a pedophile because there'd be discovery. This is what this country is aching for so desperately, is some backbone and some fight and some feeling that, hey, all this shit is wrong. Correct? It's all unlawful and authorities should be doing something about it, right? That was the world we were brought up into. That and people do wrong things are supposed to be prosecuted. Maybe we could get around to that sometime. Shame on you, White House correspondents. This whole dinner was an insult, and accepting that award. It's the Katharine Graham Award. She should have risen from the dead and taken the award back and shut down the whole show. Enough of this nerd prom. Enough of this access journalism. And there's also video from this where they showed during a break or whatever, Kristen Welker, the moderator of Meet the Press on NBC, Kristen Welker, chatting it up with Stephen Miller and tossing her head back for a laugh. Stephen Miller. It's just a game to them. It's just another set of people to interview. And next administration, there'll be another set of people to interview and write books about. We want people to take this seriously, that this country's very foundation is under attack by a transnational criminal cartel interested in installing fascism worldwide because it's easier to control, to make the money, and to become hyper-rich. Time to get back to FDR democratic socialism. It's time to recognize the power of the people and understand there's far more of us than there are of them. And that's the end of this joint, my friends. The Radical Russ Show is grown, harvested, trimmed, packaged, and rolled up by me, Radical Russ Belville, and governed by Creative Commons share-alike licensing. News, music, video clips, and social media posts are reproduced under fair use copyright laws for commentary and analysis. My main theme is We Love the Herb by Herbal Nation, and interstitial music is by Russ Boom Boom Belville.
What's the boom boom for?
Boom boom boom. Which brings us to our post-credits scene.
Why do we do this again?
Oh, God, not again.
I don't think that will be necessary.
I saw this picture come across my feed, posted originally on X by someone called Christ is My King. And his text is, if he came back tomorrow, which countries would Jesus wipe off the map first? Yeah, Jesus was all about, genocide and wiping out entire countries. But that's not the part that amused me the most. What amused me the most was the AI-generated picture they made. The background is all these soldiers and tanks and helicopters, the American flags and so forth, and guns, right? And in front of it, standing three-quarter profile, is long-haired, bearded Jesus in a dress green uniform with the nameplate that says Jesus, and then you got the black tie and a gold cross on the tie, and a white shirt, but wait a minute. He's got 3 stars on his left shoulder and 4 stars on his right. So he's a lieutenant and a half general or something? Yeah, a 3.5-star general, and you average it out. And then I got the long hair and the beard, right? Like, I'm sure that's not regulation. Jesus, which countries would Jesus wipe out first? And also, speaking of funny pictures, somebody took a still from Trump, who was at the lectern or the podium, in his sleepy mode, right? Where he's nodding off, right? It was Kevin Cruz, actually, the historian. And so he blew it up large size, and so he took each eye and his lips, blew them up large size, so they're just slits of him, half sleeping. And when it came across my feed, Blue Sky blocked it as adult content. Because his eyes and his lips look like vulvas. So it blocked it as adult content, which reminds me of that deal that Sarah Silverman did one time with Conan O'Brien on The Tonight Show. Sarah Silverman took a picture of Conan O'Brien's lips, sideways picture of his lips, and then she took the picture of Conan O'Brien's lips and placed it over her crotch. And as soon as she did that, they pixelated it on the screen, right? Now, the whole time she was taking the picture, they're showing what's on her screen. They're showing his little thin red lips, right? But the minute she put it between her legs, they pixelated it out. That's too shocking. Oh, and speaking of pixelating and shocking, the news that the Tate brothers have been extradited, are going to be extradited to Britain to face multiple counts of rape and all sorts of sex trafficking and terrible child sexual abuse material stuff. Good riddance to bad garbage. Now, it's interesting because the Tate brothers were locked up in Romania under some similar types of charges of being assholes to women. And the Trumps intervened. The Trump boys, Trump Jr., Eric, they all love this, these Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, these Tate brothers. And Trump intervened, got them out of Romania, got them into the United States, where Tate began bragging, yeah, I know the Trumps, I'm good with the Trumps, he's the future of Western civilization, people need to get behind him. I called Barron right after the assassination attempt in Butler, we're good with the Trumps. Well, apparently not good enough. Apparently, trying to keep all his billionaire buddies in the Epstein files out of the news and rescue the Tate brothers is just a bit too much of a bite of the political apple that Trump wants to take. So he's so far not intervening in the extradition of the Tate brothers. And Andrew Tate, when he was arrested in this purple blouse and like black capri pants and loafers. All sorts of memes going around where Blanche from Golden Girls was wearing the same thing, and where Peggy Bundy from Married with Children was wearing the same thing. And understand, this guy is what they call a manosphere influencer. These pickup artist assholes that say you gotta neg a girl, you've gotta insult her, and you gotta demean her, and you gotta beat her down and choke her, and women are just there for sex, and you gotta be assholes to them. You know, it's been around forever, the whole I gotta be an asshole to get hot girls take. And these guys manage to get hot girls, not because they're good guys or anything, but because some women are broken too. And they get those kind of girls, and then the other guys, the lonely incel guys, think, oh, well, that's how you get a hot girl. Look, he got a hot girl. And I gotta explain to young guys out there that manosphere influencers will get you laid like Diet Coke will make you skinny. If the product actually worked, they'd have no customers. Okay? So good riddance to bad trash. Glad they're headed over to England for some serious prosecution. Andrew Tate's been tweeting from jail. I don't know how. I don't know why or how that happens, but a couple tweets. I'm in the SHU, the secure holding unit, which is like the solitary. Probably because there's other people in prison that would like to kill or hurt a guy like this anyway, who abuses women and girls. Anyway, so Tate's tweeting, oh, the conditions are terrible. The water's giving me stomach upset. The guy next to me is a cannibal who's screaming all the time. Where are my rights? I can't believe how badly I'm being treated. Huh? This is American prison, buddy. This is the regime that you fought for. This is the future of Western civilization that you wanted, right? Didn't have any problem when it was black kids and brown kids being locked up on Rikers Island without charges for 3 years. Didn't have problem with that. Yeah, our prisons suck. Yeah, our prisons are abominable. Nice to see that you're finally recognizing that. I hope many more of you MAGA male morons find that out in the future. Then maybe we can get everybody on board to fixing our prisons and making them humane, like Jesus would do. You can contact me by email at radicalruss@gmail.com. Call my message line at 877-RUSS-420. That's 877-877-420. And reach me on social media on Blue Sky as radicalruss.com and nowhere else. You can support this podcast financially by donating to Radical Russ on Venmo, Rad Russ on Cash App, or via PayPal on my website at radicalruss.com. Get this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, my website, or wherever you get your podcasts. And I'm getting married on September 21st. We'll have more about that in future podcasts. Thanks for listening, and until next week, take care of each other.